Today, my astounded guest, is Jeremy Howlett. Jeremy was one of the co-founders of Altra Running. He has an extensive background in marketing and growing businesses, marketing businesses, doing lots of cool things, and now has landed kind of in the travel and tourism world as a travel agent, along with all the other things that he's doing. So I thought it'd be awesome to have Jeremy on today and just chat a little bit about his background, his history, and kind of how he ended up where he is today. And hopefully we can learn some cool things from Jeremy. But Jeremy, how's your day going?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on, Brandon. This will be a fun conversation, so I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, I think most people have heard of Altra Running at this point. So I think we'll kind of start there and just kind of work our way up today. Tell me a little bit about how that came about. I mean, starting a shoe company is not something that most people wake up one morning and decide, I'm going to start a shoe company.
I don't know, dumb luck, right? Like, it's kind of how it happened. It wasn't a wake up, but it was, I don't know. I'm in my mid 40s now, and I tell people one of the guys I do a lot of business, a really close friend of mine, he just turned 40, and I said, dude, and he was sweating it. He's like, oh, man, I'm gonna be 40. I'm like, 40 wasn't hard for me. Like 30 was rough. And he's like, why? I'm like, because 30 was like leaving my 20s. Like, when you're in your 20s, you're still a kid, right? Like, and so leaving my 20s, it was just like this thing. It was like, holy crap, like now I'm going to be old. Like, and at this point, I was already old. I had like a 6-year-old and like 3 kids. Yeah, 3 kids at the time. So I was definitely already old. But it was like 30, like that's like a milestone. So leading up to my 30th birthday, like I was still 28 at the time. This was summer 2009. And I was like, I got to get in shape, dude. I am fat, lazy, and out of shape, and I got to do something. And I ran in high school, and I'd run a little bit since then, but not a ton, right? Not consistently. And so I was like, well, the best thing I know to do to get in shape is go run. My wife is in phenomenal shape. She's an avid runner, and so that's what I got to do. And so I started running, and I was dealing with some knee pain and just kind of like it just wasn't fun. I had never hit the runner's high, even though I ran track and cross country in high school. Like it was a myth to me at this point, right? Like it's like no way. And so like I'm like it must be the shoes or something. I don't know, right? Like going back to the old Michael Jordan Nike commercials, right? Gotta be the shoes. So my cousin has managed the running store in Utah for a number of years. Grew up there. His parents own it. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to get a new pair of shoes, that's where I'm going, right? And it happened to be his birthday. I was down in his area. He was in Utah County. I was up in Salt Lake County in Utah at the time. And I was down in the area, and I was like, I'll swing by and just wish him happy birthday and see if he can give me any advice on some new shoes. Go by, and Golden is like, he's like, we get talking, and I'm like, dude, I'm trying to run, but my knees hurt, and it's like, it's just a struggle. Like, I think I need new shoes. I've had these forever. He's like, oh, these are haggard. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah. He's like, well, here, let's go for a run right now. I've got this shoe here that I think might work for you. I'm like, okay. And then he pulls out this shoe, and I'm like, you said my shoe was haggard. That thing's all beat up. Yeah. It's like, why is it all got all these cuts and stuff in it? He's like, well, let me tell you. We took this shoe, I cut off the outsole, and then I cut out the midsole, and then I put a flat midsole in, and then the rubber outsole back on. And so now it's the zeroed out. We hadn't coined that term yet. That term was not existent at this point. So unfortunately, we made it an everyday term, so we couldn't trademark it, but we coined the term zero drop. Hadn't come around yet. We hadn't got that far yet. But zeroed out was kind of the concept, the talk, right? Like what we were calling it. And it was just weird. And so but I'm like, dude, what is this? He's like, just try it. Let's go for a run. I'm like, okay, whatever. He's like, here's some running clothes. Let's go. So we run out this trail near his house, and he's watching me run, and he's like, dude, looking pretty good. Like, oh, thanks. He's like, how do your knees feel? I'm like, oh, then feel fine. He's like, okay. We get halfway out, and he's like, okay, now we're going to turn around, but here, you got to switch me shoes. I'm not taking these things off, dude. You're never getting these back. Like, my knees don't hurt. Like, this feels good, right? Like, I'm out of shape, but running actually feels like a normal, natural motion, right? Like, there's no pain. Like, and he's like, no, we're switching. You have to switch. I'm like, whatever. So he gives me a traditional shoe. traditional running shoe, right, is twice as high in the heel as in the forefoot.
Yeah.
Even more, even now, running shoes have come down drastically from that.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because Ultra kind of forced everybody's hand. At
Yeah.
that day, 12 mil was 12 to 14 millimeters was the differential between heel to forefoot.
Was the common
Now
hill,
it's
hill
yeah,
toe
now
to
it's
hip.
closer to 8 millimeters. So I switch. I put on his traditional shoe. I'm like, what? I don't want to do this. Like, and then we start running back, and he's like, dude, your form's falling to crap. Well, it's like, how do you feel?
Yeah.
I'm like, my knees are clanking again. Like, this doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so at that point, right, like, I'm like, okay, there's something to this.
Yeah.
And so we get back to his house, and he's telling me all about the biomechanics and everything, and we're having this like deeper conversation. I was like, okay, well, what, like, who makes a shoe like this? He's like, nobody. I said, whatever, you're
Wow.
lying to me. Like, somebody's got to
Yeah.
make a shoe like this. He's like, no, nobody.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, why not? And he's telling, well, it's marketing. Like, they all want their cushion, their air, their gels, right? Like, all of those things. And
Yeah.
so they don't want to. They won't do it. And we've talked to some of the big shoe companies, and they laugh us out of their booth at Outdoor Retailer, and there's no interest.
Oh
And I
no
said,
way.
okay. And so here's the part where I roll out of bed one day and I say, okay, let's start a shoe company.
Yeah. Oh,
And he looks
that's a
at me,
rad.
he's like, whatever, dude, we have no idea how to manufacture shoes. And I said, no, let's do it. And so when he stopped laughing at me, I said, no, I'm serious, let's go. And he's
Yeah.
like, fine, whatever. If you can find us a way to manufacture and concept out our shoes, I'll come and help you. I was like, okay, great. And then the rest is like, here we are, right? Like, we're
Yeah.
16 years later. Ultra is not quite a household name, but pretty big, right? Like,
Yeah.
global brand. If you're a runner, you've heard of the brand, you're familiar with it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So, but it was just early days. It was
What?
figuring out stuff, right? Like figuring out how to solve big problems and being
Yeah. How?
scrappy. And
Yeah. How? What were you doing at this time before you started Ultra?
so, yeah. So when I went and met with my cousin, I was working as a financial advisor. And then
Okay.
I had also started my own social media marketing agency,
Oh,
which
cool.
really sounds fancier today than it certainly did then. But
Yeah. Yeah.
it wasn't really a thing,
That was
right?
the
Like, I
early
didn't call
days.
it a social media marketing agency because those didn't really exist at the time. Like, this is early days Facebook. This is pre-Instagram, right? No
Yeah. I was gonna
TikTok,
say
Snapchat,
that's.
none of that stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
but essentially what I would do is I would go and work with small local businesses and help them build out Facebook landing pages. So you could actually code
Oh yeah.
landing pages on Facebook at the time.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was helping them do, is build out their first Facebook page and put a lead gen page or informational page onto their Facebook page.
Yeah.
So I was doing that, and I was working with a partner that was in video, and so we were trying to help small businesses create content, and
Cool.
it lasted about 9 months, and then Ultra
Yeah.
became the primary focus anyways. But
Did
so
so after you decided to do Ultra, did you just go out and how did you get it off the ground? Like you had the concept. How did you get from concept to production on that?
well, I hit up some LinkedIn groups at the time, and at the time LinkedIn groups were actually active. Now
Yeah.
today they
Yeah. Yeah.
exist, but they're not super active, right? But and I reached out on a few of them. I was just, hey, I'm looking to, I've got a shoe idea, something I want to bring to concept, bring to market. Can anybody help me? And a guy from Portland hit me up, and he's like, hey, let's talk. And he was going to actually be out here in a month or so after that first message for Outdoor Retailer. So we scheduled a meeting, where we met in the hotel lobby at the Marriott across from the Salt Palace in downtown Salt Lake. I told Golden, I said, bring your hacked up shoes. We're gonna show this guy. So he
Yeah.
comes with a backpack full of chopped up shoes, and we pull it open and show him, and he was like, okay, like, this is interesting, you guys have a
Yeah.
really cool idea, you've got a cool story.
Yeah.
And he's like, let me talk to my team back in Portland. And so their proof of concept was exactly what their company was called, but they worked with major brands, and they also worked with some small startups, and they took ideas from just the idea stage to like full-fledged prototype, and then they also had some
Oh, wow.
connections with factories and stuff. So
Oh,
they
that's
helped us build out our first shoes. So that original
yeah.
instinct, the Lone Peak, some of those early shoes were us working directly with them to build out
Yeah.
and bring them to
Yeah.
fruition.
That's really cool. So what were I mean, after you got the prototype and everything built out, how was getting it to market? And talk a little bit about that, what you did on the marketing side to actually launch the shoe. What was the first shoe? Was it the Lone Peak? Was that the first model?
The Instinct was the first
The
model,
Instinct. Okay.
which was our primary road shoe.
So you started out as did it start out as a road shoe or and then transition into more trail or what was that like?
So the road running market is the much larger market
Oh
than the
yeah,
trail
it's
running
it's
market
like
by
10
far.
times the size. I
Yeah.
don't know, probably 20 times the size. Like,
And
yeah.
so even though we were all avid trail runners, we loved the outdoors. We built the best trail running shoe on the market and still the best trail shoe on the market today. The Lone Peak is hands down better than anything else. And I will, at least today, I'll take that to my grave until that changes. But there's nothing better on the market right now.
Yeah.
But so that was definitely our baby, right? Like that was a shoe that we were used. We took it on backpacking trips up in the UN as Brian ran Wasatch, his first Wasatch 100 without blisters in that shoe. Like a lot of great experiences came from that Lone Peak, but we knew that if we were going to be a mainstay in the running shoe world, we couldn't just be like an Innovate or a Montrail and
Yeah.
just build trail running shoes.
Yeah.
And so we needed to launch a really solid road running shoe first, and that's when the Instinct hit the market. But a lot of runners that were running in the Instinct were running on trail in it.
Oh, interesting.
One of our first super fans, Craig Lloyd, had won a 100-mile race in that shoe within a couple months of it launching, and we
Oh,
had
no
heard
way.
about that and were super excited about it. People were
Yeah,
getting
totally.
1,200 miles out of a pair on the trails, and like it was great, right? But when Brian, so very early on, like Altra was born by primarily retail shop managers, right? Brian and Golden there, and then later we brought in Seth. All three of them had spent a long time managing run specialty shops
Okay.
and outdoor specialty, and we also knew that we were going to have to be born through wholesale sales. And so
Yeah.
our primary focus initially was we were going to go win as much as we could in the retail market. And so we went to the trade shows, we did the things that we needed to get in front of retailers. Shortly after Ultra launched, we packed it, myself and Brian packed up his Subaru and his top box with all the shoes we could fit and drove from Salt Lake City to Boston, Massachusetts, hitting retailers along the way, connecting with sales reps, going through all of that. Before that, we'd been to a couple of trade shows. We brought on some retailers. We were able to do that. Tom was and direct to consumer was a part of our business, but it wasn't as big, especially that
That's
first
cool.
6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
I kind of wish we would have put a little more emphasis in it than we did,
Yeah.
but this was also the before the days of like Kickstarter and some of that
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
too. And
Okay.
um,
This was the OG days.
but we yeah, and so yeah, so marketing from our standpoint was a lot of different stuff, right? Like it was that the great thing about launching in 2011 was you could go post on Facebook and you
Mhm.
could grow your fan base really quickly. And
Yeah.
then you could post on there and talk to the fans that you had, and they would see those posts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nowadays, you've got to not only pay to acquire fans, you also have to pay to even talk to your own fans
Yeah.
in most ways, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, um, yeah, social media feeds have become so cluttered nowadays, right? It wasn't that way 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, it's a
and
lot
so
harder.
we had kind of some of that benefit, right? We were also very avid at trying to own our customer base, and so every event that we would go to, we were working on getting people to sign up for some giveaway or something, right? So that we could get their email address and then making email a key part of our strategy, right? But early on, right? Like if you want to talk photo and kind of content marketing,
Yeah.
like early on, that was very important to us, right? Whether
Yeah.
especially from the organic side, we got acquired early on by a large conglomerate business out of northern Utah that we can go ahead and leave unmentioned for this
Yeah.
duration. But they didn't believe a lot in the organic raw feel.
Mm.
And unfortunately, even now with Altra's new owner, they're losing that as well. And some of that
Yeah.
stuff becomes, yeah, it's less real, it's less authentic. And
Would you?
I'm still an avid fan of brands that can maintain authenticity. And that authenticity is born out of the experience. It's born out
Yeah.
of people sharing their experience through video, photography.
Mhm.
It's You look at GoPro, right? Like, why did GoPro blow up? Well, they had a
Mhm.
device that they put in the hands of people that got to go use that device doing really awesome stuff. And you
Yeah.
had to use that device to be able to share it on YouTube and then later Facebook and Instagram and
Yeah.
these other channels, right? And it was all raw and authentic and real, and people were experimenting with it and all of that stuff, right? And so,
Yeah. So do you think that like so could you sum that up with just like the authentic stories were really what drove that experience for people? Is that a good way to sum that up? Is that
yeah,
what you guys
it
kind of
was a very
focused
big part
on?
of it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool. And then
Because I
how?
did, like, people can see right through manufactured stories, right? Like, I can watch and I know, like, okay, that's an ad, right? Like,
Yep. Everybody's.
you're just feeding me something, right? That's a professional driver on a closed course.
Yep.
Not just
Yep.
because it says it in the subscript, but I can tell, right? Like,
Yeah. Everybody can
versus
see.
like, holy crap, that person is doing something crazy, or they've been to somewhere awesome, or like
Yeah.
they're sharing their story, their experience with this product or in this place or with this service, right? Like,
So, did you guys partner up? I mean, what was most of those stories, collaboration between production companies and athletes? Was that kind of the partnership that worked well for Ultra?
the best one that worked well was the raw, organic, real stories from our ambassadors.
Oh, was it
So
really? Yeah.
we went out and we found people that loved our brand, were passionate about our brand. It's the stuff that, like, I've got a lot of friends that run media companies, and I think they
Yep.
all do great work. I think,
Yep.
and but a lot of times, and some of them are getting better at telling these stories, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times you get these media companies or these ad agencies, and they just,
Yep.
it's all too scripted,
It's too
all
scripted, too fake.
it's
Yep.
too polished, and
Yep.
it's just it's not organic and authentic, and you
Uh,
can tell.
yeah, yeah. No, I think that was. I mean, honestly, that was like a big driver for me launching Story Directive because I came from the agency world and I saw that everything was. And as I think as we've as a society we tend to we get bombarded with content now. You know, like back then it was like oh you could get a video on the website. That was kind of a hard thing to do for a long time, right? The bandwidth
Yeah,
wasn't there. It was hot. So it was like video was really reserved for just broadcast for a long time. And then as things have evolved, now everybody can shoot video, everybody can create content, everybody. So now it's interesting because it's evolved even in my career to you know there is no barrier to entry anymore. Anybody can go buy
yeah.
it. I mean, you can with your iPhone now you can shoot pretty great video. You know, like
And that's
so
important too, right? Like, let's be real. Like, it can't be too organic that it's grainy, low res, right? Like,
yeah,
people still like want to see quality video, right?
yeah.
Like,
But that's
if you're gonna go shoot video for YouTube or Instagram, even, right? Like, you
yeah.
still probably want to shoot your iPhone definitely in 1080, but probably even in 4K, right? Like,
Well,
you,
and that yeah, that's it. I think you know when I started Story Directive, that was the balance that we were trying to find was like how do you keep things authentic without making it look overly produced and fake, right? Like because that's what happens a lot of the times. And then people, I mean, you nailed it. Like you can people know when they're getting sold to. You know whether it's a piece of content that they are getting sold on or not, like, or if it's just a cool, authentic story that they can engage with. And so that's
yeah.
interesting to hear you say that.
Yeah, and they, like, people love, like, we love aspirational, but we also love relatable. It's
Yeah.
like, nobody, like, very few people in this world are gonna play basketball like LeBron James, but
Mhm.
every kid thinks he can play like Steph Curry
Mhm.
because it's aspirational, but it's also like, well, if I get in the gym and I shoot enough,
Mhm.
like, maybe I can be like Steph Curry. The dude's only
Yeah.
6'1", like,
Yeah.
that's attainable,
He
right?
wasn't he
Like
wasn't 7 feet
I'm
tall and
I'm not
300
gonna be
pounds.
6'9", 260 chiseled like LeBron James, right? Like, but 6'1", a buck 85, sopping wet. Like, okay, like I can probably do that, right?
No.
And like, so there is the inspirational, the like,
Yeah.
there's there's the excitement of watching some guy free fall out of space essentially, and
Yeah.
with a Red Bull logo
Yeah.
on him, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of cool to watch.
Yeah,
Or
that's
watching a
pretty
mountain
epic.
biker go across some like jagged spine or what, right? Like,
Yeah.
those things are cool. But then like hearing the story of so and so overcoming whatever,
Yeah,
right? Like,
do you remember like what some of those early stories were with Ultra that like really resonated with your fan base or your audience?
yeah, like we had like everyday people that were working in an office, and then they
Yeah.
decided I'm going to go train hard, and they became an elite level 50 miler, right?
Yeah.
Or like we had one ambassador who he was 350 plus pounds, but got into running and got himself down to like 170. And
Yeah.
it's like those types of stories, right? Like the mom balancing like being a stay-at-home mom with 3 young kids and going out and competing at an elite level in triathlon and
Yeah.
then in ultras, and
With that
like
balance of being a mom
just
and pushing something, pushing her running ambitions forward at the same
yeah.
time. Yeah.
Or the guy managing a call center that decides like I'm gonna go run these crazy first known traverses across Zion
Yeah.
or the Wind Rivers or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Or
Yeah.
like there's yeah, like we're not all gonna be the super elite runner,
Killian
but we can all
Jornet.
go do some really epic stuff if we just go out and be a weekend warrior.
Yeah. And I think generally speaking, I think we underestimate what we can do and what we can accomplish. And so I think people do really, when you can find an authentic story like that, that people really resonate with it because it is authentic and it is relatable and
Yeah.
it does seem attainable, right? Like to your point, like some things are, am I ever going to run a 2 minute marathon or a 2 hour marathon? Probably not,
Yeah.
at my age, you know what I
Well, and
mean?
it's super interesting too, right? Because we've got major media houses that are cranking out like high quality production
Yeah.
commercials, right? Like,
Yeah.
and they're really cool, right? But then you've got some of these YouTubers, like my my daughter and I are following Ryan Trahan on his journey across the 50 states right now.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
family that's been to all 50 states, it's kind of fun to watch him go do it, right? But there's
Hmm.
one of the things that I love about Ryan is most like he professionally edits all of his stuff. He hands it off to an editing crew, but
Yeah.
it's still so raw. Like he
Yeah.
is literally holding his lapel mic to his
Yeah.
mouth
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
most of his
Totally.
videos. And you know the guy's financially he's set for life. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Based on the number of followers that he has, the content that he produces, right? Like he's launched his own candy company that's sold in Target, right? Like
Yeah.
he's good,
Yeah.
but you'd never know it by watching his videos because
Yeah.
he's never over the top, right? Like, but his stuff's still really raw and organic and fun. And
Yeah.
he's captivating tens of thousands of people. Like,
Hmm.
his goal was to raise $1 million for St. Jude over the course of 50 states. And he's in state 14 and he's already surpassed $1 million.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's he's buddies with like all of like Mark Rober and the
Yeah.
Mr. Beast and all of those guys
Yeah.
too, right? Like, and they're this just a small world of these like high level YouTubers, right? But like,
Yeah.
but that's that like we're in such this different world today than when growing up in the 80s 90s where everything was produced content. You had 5 channels and then some cable TV.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that,
100%. Yeah. No, I
but
mean,
like
media
we
has trans.
go across the gamut.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. No, that's awesome. Yeah. No, that's really cool. So you were with Ultra there till what year was that? 2018? Is that
20
18 or so? And then how did you come to the decision that it was time to leave or time to do something else there? Did you guys end up selling, or what was the precipice of that coming to kind of a close?
Yeah, so I left full time in 2016.
Okay.
Mostly like there was a little too much company oversight. We had lost a
Mm,
lot of our freedom,
yeah.
and just yeah, the core authentic brand was kind of dissipating and getting lost.
Yeah.
And so that was both frustrating and kind of holding me captive, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just wasn't, it had lost its flair and its flavor. And so at
Yeah.
that point I decided to leave full time and stayed on to do some consulting. And then in 2018, when they got acquired by VF Corp, was when
Oh,
I
okay.
went ahead and left completely and
Yeah.
kind of moved on to do some other things. Decided to go back to school and finish my degree in philosophy, and
Oh, interesting.
went on to help a couple other startups get going.
Yeah. So did that when that came to a close, was that disappointing to you, or were you like, oh no, it was time to move on, and you felt you were ready for something new?
Well, Dr. Freud, let's pull out the couch and we can have a much deeper conversation on that. Like when you start a company, it's like having a child.
100%.
And
Yeah, that's what I
it
wondered.
yeah, you put your heart and soul into it, and it's yours. You helped craft this thing. You brought this thing into existence. You helped raise it. You
Yeah.
know everybody that's kind of associated with, like, I had personal relationships with retailers and with reps and with
Yeah.
ambassadors all over the country, right? Like vendors, and so yeah, walking away from that or kind of cutting ties with that, it's hard, right? Like
Yeah.
it's emotionally difficult.
Yeah.
And it took an emotional toll really until probably December of last year.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so yeah, that's 6, 7 years of
Yeah. No. I
um
mean, that's what I mean, it's and I ask that because it's very few people in the world that can say they co-founded a world-renowned brand, right? Like,
yeah.
so if I could see that would, but I could also see like how, I mean, how when it lost some of its mojo and the core of what it was, that you kind of would feel like, all right, I think I've done what I could do here, and it's time to kind of like
Yeah,
try
but
to
it
do.
doesn't make it any easier.
No.
So, like, and I don't know, like, to some extent, maybe that makes it harder. I don't know. Like, I don't know the
Mm,
flip side of it, right? But like, it certainly
in,
doesn't make it any easier.
in a
And
sense, it might have been easier to leave if you had felt like your baby was in good hands.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but that's 100% understandable. So,
So,
um, well, so you leave Altra, and decide to do something else, and then you get into, it looks like you got into Huck and Cinch and some of the other kind of marketing. Were those agencies? What were those?
yeah, so Hawk and then Marketing Solved, and like those are both marketing agencies that I've worked with on both B2B as well as B2C commerce side of things. And Cinch was a marketing automation platform that I helped the founders get going and get off the ground with some strategy and some other things there. And they've grown and done some really awesome stuff. And they do mostly in the brick and mortar space, but they're kind of like a MailChimp, Klaviyo
Mm-hmm.
type platform, but quite a bit more advanced than those two. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that was kind of fun to be part of that and watch those things grow. And as I kind of dabbled back and forth between the agency world and working in house for some other companies
Mm-hmm.
and playing in that world, I've always loved travel,
Yeah.
and that's where I've always kind of gravitated to, both to travel personally as well as to help just kind of advise people in travel. And so for the last couple of years, I've been toying with this idea of becoming a travel agent.
Mm-hmm.
And finally in April, I pulled the trigger and said, you know what, like let's do it.
Yeah.
And so now I've launched my own travel agency, and I've got a great back end team behind me with the host agency, some
Cool.
things there. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's a great opportunity to, okay, now let's, and I'm still like, I don't know, marketing my own brand sometimes is doing it. Solopreneurship is hard.
I,
I'm so used to working with a team and being able to delegate a lot of things and just
yeah.
go for it, right? But like
Yeah.
running as a solopreneur is a little different game.
Oh yeah.
I love
Right.
photography. I take a lot of photos when I travel.
Yeah.
And so trying to market what I'm doing and where I'm going, like as I travel, is should be easy, but it's not always
No, it's
easy.
very difficult. As someone that's been in the photo world for 20 years, you think that doing it for yourself would be easy, but it's actually, to your point, I think it's actually more challenging because you're just, I don't know, yeah, you got to do it all yourself, and
Yeah.
you get in your head too much. I think probably a little too much. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I can't remember how many times I've shot something or done something and then never done anything with it because I just felt like it wasn't good enough, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. And so there's, you definitely battle your own demons, I think, in a way.
Yep, for sure.
So what's that like? So you have years of experience of marketing and growing businesses. Now you're doing your own thing. What kind of, I mean, what kinds of trends or things do you see in the travel and tourism world that seem to be working well? I mean, you're a travel agent. You're building your own travel agency. You can talk maybe a little bit about that, and then maybe what you see in travel and tourism kind of content in general. What are you seeing? What's kind of happening in that space?
Yeah, I think, well, I don't know. It's the stories are vast throughout
Yeah,
travel, right? Like,
yeah,
I think one of the things we see in travel is a lot of the fancy luxury glamour side of it, right?
mm-hmm.
Influencers that are getting comped left and right
Yeah,
to go stay in
yeah,
some fancy resort or whatever, right?
uh-huh.
Like,
Yep,
and that's definitely a big aspect of it. The other side of travel that I tend to follow pretty actively is the reward side of travel. So
yeah,
travel point credit cards and
yeah,
bonuses and stuff like that. And so I think a lot of times people start to view travel as a really expensive endeavor.
yeah,
And it certainly can be, right? Like I have booked accommodations for clients where they're spending 10 grand to go spend 3 nights in one hotel, right? Like,
yeah,
and that's great for me.
yeah,
But like,
totally.
but that's not everybody, right? Like it's
Yeah,
for some, right? Like they want to travel to Europe with their family. And it's like, okay, well, sometimes that can be really expensive to get out there.
yeah,
$1,200 for a round trip ticket, maybe, right? Like, but
yep,
if you're flexible and you're willing to put in some time and research, and like right now, there's some great credit card bonuses out there
yeah,
that you can get 100 to 150,000 points just for signing up and meeting their minimum spend
yep,
within the first few months. And if you do that, 100,000 points may seem like a lot, may not, depends on if you've looked into miles or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah.
if you fly strategically, like I took my wife to Kauai last year,
Mm-hmm.
it cost us 30,000 points combined
Oh
for us to
wow.
fly round trip from Salt Lake
Yeah,
City to Kauai.
yeah,
That's fantastic, right?
yeah,
Like,
totally. Yeah,
plus then we paid the taxes of $12 a person. So it was 24
yeah,
bucks, right? Like
yeah, yep,
it was great. And so if you look at that, right, like okay, 100,000 points, that gets a family of 5
yeah.
to to Kauai
Hawaii.
round
Yeah,
trip, right? Like
yep,
that's beautiful. I've booked trips, like I've got a trip coming up where I'm going to Southeast Asia, and that cost me 130,000 points round trip for 2 tickets, right? Like,
yeah,
and so yeah, so if you do it strategically, like you can find ways to travel, and you can travel some really cool places around the globe.
yeah.
Uh,
So
so
how does
those
that?
are those are two areas that I really heavily look at. But then, obviously, being a father, I look for okay, what family. I look at family travel a lot, right? Like, not a lot of us are going to travel like extravagantly, like some of these families that are always on trips. But it's finding
Mhm.
little ways to be like, okay, how can we get out? How can we go explore? Where are the places that we can go?
Yeah,
And so I tell a lot of my clients, I say, yeah, let's book your flights with points, and then let's go find you some great accommodations using Verbo, Expedia, or I can find great hotel stays that'll give you upscaled experiences as if you were a platinum member of that hotel without having to be a platinum member. So you'll get room upgrades, you'll get free breakfast, you'll get
yeah.
a lot of these perks and benefits of if you were a loyalty member, right? By booking through a travel agent. So
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So how long have you been doing that now? You said a couple of years that or how long
I've
is it?
been I've been working as a travel agent for just a few months.
Oh, a few months. Oh, okay.
I've been booking travel for friends, family, my own, and then
Yeah,
also I did a ton of it with Altra, booking it for athletes and stuff around
yeah,
the world. So
for
I
trips and
definitely have some experience in it, but being able to
yeah,
do it now for clients has been a lot of fun.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. So how does someone get started as a travel agent, just out of curiosity? What's required like to do that?
Yeah, well, there's not a lot required.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is one, you just a passion for travel.
Yeah.
Two, it is a big responsibility, right? Like I booked a trip for a client there, and they're going up to Glacier, and so we booked
Oh,
a cabin for them up there.
yeah.
And after, and it was a non-refundable stay that they wanted to stay in this place, and it was non-refundable. And after I hit
Yeah.
submit, I was like, oh crap, did I put the right dates in?
Yeah.
And just this like pit in my stomach
Yeah,
of like
totally.
like like it's like that's thousands of dollars, right? Like
Yeah.
and non-refundable. And so it's just like okay. And I made sure, and thankfully they were the right dates, so we were
Yeah, yeah,
fine.
yeah.
but
You do
but
feel a
it's
lot of I'm sure you feel a lot of pressure to make sure that it's a good experience for your clients, right?
yeah, absolutely, right? But as far
Yeah.
as like the logistics of like, okay, like how do you become a traveler, right? Like anybody can go and kind of be an advisor to travel for people to
Yeah.
travel, right? Like if you want to just say, hey, let me put together a plan or an itinerary
An
for you,
itinerary for you or whatever.
and you could sell that itinerary to that person for $100 or
Yeah.
200 bucks or whatever you want, right? Like, or like the way that I work, right? I have a back end, so I have a host agency. Fora Travel is my host agency. I've
Cool.
looked around at a number of host agencies. This was kind of the easiest one to get into, but they also are more of they're more modern than some of these other old school
Uh,
agencies. There are some MLM agencies out there that are all
oh,
about, hey, you get commissioned if you bring
yeah,
so many
yeah.
people. Thankfully, my host agency's not that way.
Oh, good for you.
But yeah, so the host agency gives you access to really the relationships with the partners, the hotels, all of those things. And so you now have clout to where you can go to, whether it's Viator or Expedia or Verbo or some of these other homes
Yeah,
to go, other partners, and get set up with them to become an agent through their platform because you've got the back end
oh,
of your host agency.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
there are certain requirements that our host agency has that are like, okay,
Yeah.
you have to like there's some annual dues that we pay, and then
Oh,
and then they take a little bit of share of the commission,
yeah, yep.
but then they also require some training, and so there's some
Oh,
training
okay.
that's required before you get access to certain tools and whatever, right? Like so there is some education in it, right? But there's still always that moment of, okay, did I book the right place? Did I book the right dates, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah,
and just
no, that
those sometimes overwhelming feelings to deal with, right?
no, no, that's cool. I mean, I mean, with where you're at now, Jeremy, are you specializing in certain locations or it sounds like you're kind of pushing more family travel just because that's kind of what your experience is, or is it really just a broad range of stuff?
So I'm pretty open.
Yeah.
Corporate travel is easy for me, like big group travel.
Okay.
I've got a couple of groups that do some like historical tours throughout the US.
Oh,
That I'm going to be booking some stuff with them upcoming. But then family and couple travel is
oh,
real, like that's where I've spent a lot of my time, right? Like corporate
yeah.
travel because I've booked a lot of trips for employees and
Yeah.
client like
Yeah,
uh,
totally.
but those are the areas that I know. I know the US extremely well
Yeah.
because I've been all over it. I know Europe
Yeah.
pretty well. I've been
Yeah.
a few times to Europe, and then I know Central America and the Bahamas. I'm
Okay.
learning Southeast Asia. I booked a
Nice.
trip for a client to the Philippines and then also to Japan, and then I'm planning my own trip to Thailand and Malaysia, and so even though I
Yeah.
haven't been to a place, I can research it pretty well. But then I also have like I've got a ton of other advisors that I can go
Okay.
and
You can tap
seek,
into and say,
that I
"Hey,
can
I've got
tap
a client
into, and
that's
yep,
looking to go here.
exactly.
I've never," and that's what I was gonna ask is because I mean, you it's not. I mean, I guess in theory it's possible, but you can't go everywhere, right? So it's like you have to rely on some research and some things, but and your experience to kind of guide that person into the right type of trip, right, and the right
Yeah.
accommodations. I think that's the, you know, I've traveled quite a bit as well, and I think that's always the hard part is just knowing where to stay, just because that's like you know where you want to go, but it's where do you want to stay that's always the big like unknown because there's a handful of photos online. And you're like, I hope it looks like this.
Yeah, that can be a little tricky for sure, right? Like, and yeah,
No,
depending, like, I don't, yeah, I don't love, I don't know. I love Verbo's commercials, by the way. I think Verbo
Yeah,
has some amazing commercials these
yeah,
days. Their Nick Saban commercial is one of my favorite commercials. I'm not a huge Nick Saban fan, but I think for that commercial, he's perfect. And for
yeah.
those of you that haven't seen it, go YouTube it. It's funny.
Okay.
But I do like I love hotel chains because I know what I'm gonna get, right? Like, and but I do love boutique hotels. There are some really fun boutique hotels out there. We used to sponsor the Runner's World Half Marathon, which was put on in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania,
Oh,
which is outside of Allentown. It's a place that you
yeah,
probably like, unless you know your history about steel in America, you've probably
yeah,
never known that there's a Bethlehem in Pennsylvania.
yeah.
But they were one of the biggest steel manufacturers. Bethlehem Steel was one of the biggest steel manufacturers in the
Oh, wow.
US back in the heyday.
Yeah,
But they have this really cool hotel downtown. It's a boutique Bethlehem Hotel or Hotel Bethlehem.
yeah,
And it's super cool. So, like, finding little gems like that are kind of fun to go stay in these
yeah,
unique places that you might not otherwise stay if you're always staying in your Courtyard or your
yeah, yeah,
Hilton
totally.
Garden Inn or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah, and it is
yeah.
funny because I don't stress about where I'm going to stay if I'm traveling for work as much or by myself. As soon as I bring the family, I feel a lot of pressure to like find something that's like not
Yeah.
slump in. You know what I mean? It's a whole nother thing. Like I feel a lot more stress. I'm all, oh, I hope this is good. You know what I mean? So it is funny.
Yeah, my wife gets on me. She's like, "I'll stay in the Quality Inn, and you can, but you won't stay in anything less than a Spring Hill. Like that's even low class for you." I'm like, "That's fine, but I don't like to stay in even if it's me solo. I'm a little picky, but call
Yeah,
me
no,
spoiled or
I think the
something,
more
I
you
guess.
travel,
But
the more
like,
pickier you become.
yeah,
That's what I've learned.
it's true. Yeah,
Because at first you're like, oh, this is fine, but then after like the third, fourth, fifth night, you're like, oh, this place sucks. I want something nicer.
yeah. Like I was in New York last week, and I saved some money, and I went probably a little less than I wanted to,
Yeah.
and it was like the bed was fine, the room was fine, but I'll tell you, there were a couple days that got really warm and muggy in New York,
Oh
and
yeah.
our room was warm and muggy, and it
Yeah.
just would not cool off. And
Yeah.
I was cranking the AC, and it just was
Yeah.
not like. And I don't know, like that's also New York a little bit too,
Oh yeah.
but some of
100%.
those nicer, more modern hotels have improved their
Yeah.
AC,
AC
so it's
situations
better.
and
But
yeah.
first
Um,
world problems, right?
yeah. So I guess like maybe in that vein, what are you seeing, in the travel and tour? Like, what are you doing to market yourself? Like, what are you doing to, yeah, like, what are you seeing as like current trends in the travel space?
Yeah, so, marketing myself. I post somewhat consistently on Instagram, Jeremy
Hmm.
W. Howlett. But then also I'm working on putting together kind of a travel tips newsletter on my Substack, and like I talk about it on my podcast.
Yeah. Jeremy,
And
what's your podcast for everybody?
so it's a bit of curiosity. So you can find it on all major podcast platforms. I also have a Substack. It's a bit of curiosity.substack.com. And so yeah, so through my Substack, I'm gonna try to build up a email newsletter list a little bit more and kind of go
Yeah.
through some of that, share more of my photography that way too. And just share my own travel insights and experiences as well as some of those others that I've gleaned from others.
Yeah.
I think as far as looking at trends, like Europe is always a very popular trend. People want to get
Yeah.
over and visit Europe. There's a lot of allure with beach vacations, as I think there
Yeah.
always is, right?
Yeah.
Like
100%.
I don't know how much the economy has directly affected people's desire or ability to travel. I feel like
Yeah.
travel is on the rise
Mm.
excessively. Flights are always pretty booked, and
Yeah.
there's ever increasing flights. It was kind of fun when my daughter and I flew out to New York. We were in the airport just after they had launched off the first direct flight from Salt Lake to Southeast Asia.
Oh,
Salt Lake now flies direct to South Korea.
yeah.
And so they had balloons, and Delta had
That's
kind
cool.
of displays and stuff all over the airport, and so that was kind of fun to see the little, at least aftermath of
Yeah.
those festivities, right?
Yeah.
But so I see like a lot of these areas like Salt Lake are becoming bigger hubs to the rest of the world, right? Like it's only
Mhm.
been a few years that Delta started flying direct from Salt Lake to Amsterdam in addition to
Mhm.
their London and Paris flights, right? And so I think we're seeing a big increase in that. We're seeing a lot of national park tourism is
Yeah.
continues to be on the rise, right? Like, so for any of you that are traveling to national parks, if they're highly populated, you will need to get reservation times.
Yeah.
So
We were just in, in
Glaciers going to the
Colorado.
Sun Road is 120 days in advance that you need to
Oh,
book a
well,
reservation for. You need to have reservations for
Rocky
the
Mountain National
Rocky
Park.
Mountain National Park,
Yeah,
right?
we were just there
Zion is
last 3 weeks. We were there 3 weeks ago, yeah. But yeah, you had
yeah.
to have timed entry to there's actually 2
Arches is
different timed
definitely
entries
so
into Rocky Mountain now, which is
yeah.
crazy, like, I don't know, it's wild.
So yeah, so it's definitely on the rise. I think COVID, we saw a real influx to camping in national parks, and that has continued to
Mhm,
stay and climb.
mhm,
The great thing is there's a lot of great national parks outside of America. So
mhm.
if you're looking for national parks that are a little less hit,
Congested.
go to New Zealand, Costa Rica, Thailand, right?
Yeah,
Like there's some great places over there, and
yeah,
um just phenomenal. Yes, it's a little harder to get to than taking your RV down to,
mhm,
but and there's also a lot of really good small national parks here in the US that aren't as hit, right? Like
yeah,
if you want to look for some gems, go out to Great Basin in Nevada, go to
mhm,
even the Everglades are still have some good availability, right? Go to
yeah,
Hot Springs National Park in Arkansas, go to
yeah,
White Sands is probably a little more hit, but go to Big Bend or some of those down in Texas, right? Like there's still some great places to go visit for sure that aren't as swarmed with people.
yeah, totally. No, that's good. Yeah, no, that's great. I guess, is there anything else you want to talk about, Jeremy? Like that we haven't chatted about?
No, this was great.
I guess like maybe just to wrap up, you have an extensive background in marketing, you have an extensive background in building things, growing things. What have you found to be some of your most important things that you like marketing efforts or things that you've done to kind of bring about that success?
I think just having a balanced attack, right? Like there's so many different avenues to go down, and I think it's picking depending on what your bandwidth is, right? It's picking the few that you can fit within your bandwidth, right? Like with Altra, we were at events all the time, right? Like I was
Mhm,
traveling every weekend in October. I was somewhere different because that's
mhm,
marathon season, right? Whether I was
yeah,
in Chicago or New York or Pennsylvania or wherever, right? Like, but then how do I activate at that event aside from just selling product, right? Like,
yeah,
can I get people to follow us on social? Can I get people to engage with us? Can I get people's email, right? Like
mhm,
the first today's day and age, Facebook, we don't think they're going anywhere, right? But they
yeah,
could be gone tomorrow. They could
yep,
disappear.
yep,
And that's a marketing channel that could be completely gone, right? And any data that they own, right? Like
mhm,
I could have 500,000 fans on my Facebook page
mhm,
or followers on my Instagram, and
yep.
as soon as Facebook disappears, all of those fans are gone. And
Or
so I
they get
spent
locked
all
out
that
of
money.
their accounts, or they get, I've heard horror stories of like people just totally losing their entire access to their pages
Yeah.
and then that's it.
Yeah, and but if I have their email address, I
Yep.
always own that customer.
Yep.
Like, yes, email's getting trickier to send to, right? And there's different
Mm,
strategies that I've got to figure out there and whatnot, right? But anytime I can own the customer, there's a lot of value there, right? Like
yep.
I even though we were so heavily weighted to retail, I was always looking at, okay, how can I get those retail purchasers?
Mhm.
How can I get them activated in some way that I can start to own their data, right?
Yeah.
At least get them on my email list or something, right? Like whether they bought directly from me or ended up buying from the retailer, I didn't really care, just
Mhm.
as long as I could own that customer. Yeah,
Mhm.
okay, I couldn't track it if they bought from the retailer, right? Like I had
Yeah,
no
yeah.
attribution there, but so it's looking at, okay, what are the channels? Where can I play, right? Like as I look at social, like I can advertise on Pinterest, Meta,
Mhm. Yeah, hundreds of
TikTok,
different.
Snapchat, right? Like the
Yeah,
list is growing X, right? Like,
yep,
and there's always seems to be a new trendy one that's popping up,
yep,
right? Like, and so it's okay. Do I go advertise on all of them? Do I go build an audience on all of them? No,
yeah,
you
no,
can't.
you
Like,
can't. Yeah,
unless you're among the largest companies in the world, you just don't have the bandwidth for it,
yeah,
right? And so you've got to pick the ones that make the most sense for you.
mhm,
I know a lot of brands that have abandoned Facebook
mhm,
for putting more focus into Instagram and TikTok, right?
mhm.
Well, that might leave Facebook more open for your brand, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
um, so that
So
depends
just
on where the
understanding
customer is,
which
right?
avenues are gonna reach their customer base
Yep.
is critical to
Yeah, for
your
sure.
marketing efforts to succeed, right? That's a good way to sum that up, right? Like, don't, because I think that that's, that's everybody goes out, feels like they have to be doing all the channels and all the things, and you just can't. Like, even unless you're Nike or, you know what I mean, or and have a giant budget and tons of people to help manage those channels. There's it's just not possible. No, that's great. Any other good advice?
Well, I think just today, as it was 20 years ago, your website's always the hub of your business. And so,
Yeah.
like, just make your website tell your story,
Hmm.
craft the narrative there, let the content live there. You can use some of these other content platforms if you want to dive into Medium, if you want to use Substack, like you
Hmm.
can explore some of these other content platforms and they have their advantages and maybe they fit your marketing strategy, but make your website your hub. Like it should be where everything centers on.
Yeah, what's your experience been with, and how did you decide on Substack? Out of curiosity, with your is that was that a position, a platform you specifically chose for your travel stuff?
So I chose Substack primarily. So this was before I started doing the travel stuff. It was when I was launching the podcast, and I had never heard of Substack, and so I had a friend point me that direction, and I was familiar with Medium, and I know and
Yeah.
Notion. There's some others, right? Like, but the nice thing about Substack is I own my list. So anybody that subscribes, I own that customer. I own the content, so I can take that content off of Substack and put it anywhere else I want.
Oh,
Plus, also
nice.
they host my podcast for free, so I don't have to pay the $20 a
Oh,
month or whatever that some of these hosting platforms charge.
yeah.
And then they syndicate it out to all the main podcasting platforms for me.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, that's good to know. No, that's awesome. I think that covers most everything that I kind of was thinking about, and as I looked over your experience and kind of what you're doing, I think that kind of is a good way to wrap up kind of our discussion today. But I appreciate your time and effort. And where can people learn more about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, so my primary website's jeremyhowlett.com. You can also like I mentioned, Instagram, Jeremy W. Howlett, and then I'm on Substack, Jeremy Howlett, and then my Substack is a bit of curiosity.substack.com,
Yeah.
which you can also get to from my website. So
Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for your time today. It was great chatting with you and hearing your stories and experiences. I think it's pretty valuable for a lot of people to kind of understand that there's a lot we can do, and we don't need to be. I think we limit ourselves a lot on kind of what we think we can accomplish. But I think you're a good testament that you can go out and do whatever you freaking want.
yep. I appreciate it, Brandon. This was great. Thanks for having me.